Okay. Interesting. I've never done this before, but I figured I would uh, try answering some questions that I got about the season 6 of Alone. Somebody just asked, I'm in New York, near New York City in Westchester at my in-laws' house. So uh, here we go. Let me check out some of the questions I got. What filmed moment were you looking forward to watching on TV, but ultimately it got edited out? Uh, hey, um, I was gonna say the fishing was something that I was hoping to see more of. I caught a lot of fish on the rod. You saw that first one I lost, which that was pretty funny because I knew I was supposed to make a fishing net, and I went out there and was fishing anyway with that one, caught one, and it got off, and I was like, what an idiot. But like I said, I lost my J hook that I brought to use with lures, because a J hook works a little better with lures than a circle hook, and so I was bummed I lost that hook. But I still had circle hooks, and I went on to kind of figure the fishing out. It took a long time. It was well after I got my moose before I caught my first fish, but once I did on the rod, I ended up catching 11 or so of them, and a couple of them were huge. There was one that was close to 25 pounds. I don't know if it was quite 25 pounds. We weighed it at a med check, and it was just under 10 kilograms, but it was already frozen, so it kind of loses a little weight. Sorry, I missed a little question there. But anyway, reeling in some of those big fish, I was really looking forward to seeing that, but I never saw that. What other? Oh, and I did a lot of dumb skits that would have been fun to see. I did like this elaborate reenactment of the Normandy invasion that thought would have been pretty funny with all these camera angles and stupid things going on. But that didn't make it on the show. And then some other dumb stuff I did, like, what type of compound bow do you own? I own a Matthews XT. How large was the island I was on? Probably maybe 5 acres or something like that. 5-6 acres. Anyway, so that was what I missed. That was a Reddit question. Now, let me see real quick. Let me answer a couple more off of Reddit here. So some skits. Missed some skits and missed some fishing that I was hoping to see. Would you change any of the 10 items? The only item that I was questioned that I maybe shouldn't have brought, not that I shouldn't have, but was the saw. Like, I really didn't know if I needed a saw, but I brought one anyway, kind of as a calorie saver. And it ended up I pretty much didn't need a saw. I could have done. The only thing that was helpful was when I was building the cache, because you could cut the V wedges in the wood. But yeah, it was pretty tough. Not that necessary, that saw. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by all the writing. How many people, let me rotate this. Yeah, is that going to screw it up? Hopefully not. Alright. Did you think, when I got my last med check, how many people did I still think was in the game? I thought there was probably like 4 or 5 people left. I don't know. To be honest, I didn't even entertain the idea that it might even be close to ending. I didn't even think until I was 90 days in that it was even, starting, basically. I thought, if I get to 90 days and then, stretch it out from there, that's when the game was really going to happen. So I fully expected that there was still a lot of people out there when it ended. That's why I was so stressed about my fat, not because I didn't have enough, but because I didn't have enough to get where I thought I needed to get, which was the end of January or so. let's see. Let me look at some of these other questions. Would you change with 10 items? Maybe the saw. And if I did change the saw, I would have probably swapped it out for either a tarp, an extra tarp, or a block of salt. But you know, obviously I didn't really need the salt because I was successful hunting, and I also, if a tarp might have been nice for wrapping all my meat in, because then if any Wolverine or anything else tried to get into it, would have made a lot of noise and it would have protected it well from the birds. Could have been a good storage option for meat if I would have for sure known I was going to get a moose. What types of plant matter did I eat out there? And did I avoid constipation? And yeah, I didn't have any issues with that, and I ate a lot of berries, and I and I ate reindeer moss like Barry did, but I was just trying to throw that in to add a few extra carbs with my meat, so it was kind of like a bunch of fried meat and a little bit of moss to kind of make it like stir fry, Arctic stir fry. But I would notice even after you triple boiled that moss and you drank the broth, like it would still burn your tongue from the acidity. So I kind of quit because it was like, well, probably not worth getting an ulcer. Let me think. What else do we have here? What moment when you're unable to capture on film that you wish you would have? I wish I would have gotten any of the actual kill moments, but that's of course so hard to do when you're hunting. But wish I would have got the arrow going into the moose, and wish I would have had the camera right next to me when I was hacking the Wolverine. Those are probably the main ones. Let's see. I've never done a live video before, so I'm figuring it out. Everybody's chatting, and I gotta see what. Oh, why did I get to the point of dreading to eat? Oddly enough, fish livers. Like, I never got sick of anything. Loved the moose meat. All the moose was just delicious. The only thing that was a little not great was the I got sick of, honestly, just fish, because I actually really love fish and would love some now, but it's the body didn't desire that protein meat fish. I loved the fish heads, and I loved the like skin and the bellies, but the meat wasn't that great. And the fish livers, for some reason, I would just dread eating, but you gotta eat them. What's your favorite primitive trap to use? I mean, as far as little traps, I like the Paiute deadfall just because it's real easy to set and real sensitive, and caught out there 38 mice with it, so they weren't a problem at all. Just mowed some mice down. I never even got one in my shelter as far as I know. Let me see. I'm gonna answer a few more Reddit questions here. What lessons? What lessons did you learn while living in the Arctic that you think are valuable? I mean, to make it simple, I do think it's valuable. I think everybody should go out and spend over a week in the forest. Like, you don't need to rely on getting food, but take enough food to live out there and spend a good amount of time to where you get bored and can think and really delve into your thoughts, especially when you are, in the modern time, you almost never have time to do that. So I think it's worth it. Let's see. What else do we have here? What's a big, love your story with him? Let's see. That's a big question. Somebody asked me about my basically love your story, and you have a beautiful family. I'm curious about life before the show. How were you able to live with the tribe in Siberia? Did you set it up before you went, or did you find a tribesman on your travels and accepted an invite to live with him? That's what happened. Is I met a native guy and became friends, and he invited me up to live with him. What are some of the things that stuck with you after that experience? That's like, I'll have to save that for later. That's a real big question. It's obviously a huge part of my experience, or life even. What was your first meal back at camp, and what was it like eating it? And were there any negative or positive effects on your digestive system after starving? Well, I didn't really starve. I didn't actually. So I didn't have any of the issues related to starving. I was able to eat pretty much what I wanted. right when I got back. Let me see. Sorry, that's a lot happening. I've never done this before. Where was I? Oh, my first meal was my own fish, because I guess they were a little low on food. They knew it was winding down, I guess, based on, and they didn't have a lot of food at production camp. So when I came out, I had like 60 pounds of fish that I had been storing up, and they were excited. I had that brand new, fresh 20-pound pike or whatever, and that's what I ate. That was my first meal, but they kind of gave me smaller portions than I was expecting. I had to ask for seconds, but it did have salt and pepper, so it was good. Why didn't I store fat in my shelter? Well, I did store my rendered lard and stuff in my shelter, but actually, according to our, anyway, yeah, I'm actually not going to answer that one right now, but I did try. Well, let's see. After watching the show and reading comments, let's see. What was something you ate that you thought would be disgusting, but wasn't that bad? I think most of the things that I ate I've already eaten, but I do love moose marrow. Is delicious. What did I eat that was new out there? I mean, a mouse popper, where you just fry up a mouse. No, you don't even have to gut it, or, I mean, you gut it, but you don't have to bone it or anything. You just boil the whole mouse and chomp down bones and all. It tastes pretty good. How many total visits from... That's too much of a production question. I probably can't answer it. Did I have other game... Did you have a game plan for when you didn't arrow a moose or some other critter? Well, getting something big was a big part of the game plan, because being thin, it's like I have to provide a ton of food. So I was hitting the snaring as hard as I could, and I was getting lots of rabbits. In the first 20 days, I got 27 rabbits, and then I got the moose and stopped snaring rabbits. So had I not got the moose, I would have continued after the rabbits, but I would have also gone back to fishing a lot harder, like tried to hit the fishing more, get my, but because I got the moose, that kind of delayed that. But once I did figure out the fishing, it was pretty effective, and I was getting quite a bit of action. It was pretty fun. How did you avoid injuring yourself? Did you avoid doing any, anyway, to answer your question, I think, had I not gotten big game, your next best option is fish, so I would have just really hit the fishing hard. That's limited though, because once the ice gets a couple feet thick with an axe, you're gonna have a hard time chopping through. So let's see. It was good to get big game, and that was definitely something I hoped to do. Where's the chocolate covered moose marrow? I wish I knew. I just need some moose marrow now. It's one thing or the other you're missing. How did you avoid injuring yourself? Did you avoid activities due to the risk of injury? Injury near misses, like a slightly twisted knee or almost losing a hand in axe. Well, one good thing about, I'm not a, you read my bio, probably some of you. I've had a lot of injuries in my day. I'm not particularly, risk averse, so I do get injured a lot, and but I've learned a lot of lessons over the years. So, I had to learn the hard way to like really be careful with an axe, and after chopping my knee, in Siberia and being laid up for days in a teepee. But then you learn to always hold it with one hand, two hands, always be under control. Things like other things is like really slippery shorelines, so I'd always carry a tin full of sand and ash mixed and sprinkle the ash and the sand on the shoreline so it wasn't slippery. That was really important because it was very slippery out there, like black ice. And then it allowed me to fish a lot later into the season when otherwise it wouldn't actually even been accessible. What else? Let me read some more. So being careful was a big part of things. I did not do anything due to injury, but I was careful on everything I did. Fortunately, didn't even get injured at all. I don't even remember nicking my fingers or anything. Total amount of fish I caught was 11 fish with the rod and 2 under the ice. So that was 13 fish. It was one grayling, one pike, and all the rest were lake trout. And the large one, the 2 biggest, were that pike at the end on the net, and the biggest was a lake trout that was probably 24 pounds or something. Let's see, what else do I have? Who's my favorite cousin? Let's see, first, what else? Yeah, I was, let's see. Sorry, being a new question. How did you preserve the moose? And is smoking a whole leg or rib possible, or does it need to be cut into smaller, thin pieces? Well, if you're gonna be preserving it in the summertime, you'd need to cut it and dry it and smoke it in smaller pieces. I was just trying to get the meat to hard frost, and so all I needed to do was put enough smoke on it to where it was kind of, where it would last a few weeks and get to October or November, whenever it was going to be cold. So I did cut up a lot of meat into strips and dry it and smoke it just in case, but those big chunks, put a little bit of smoke on it, smoked it for 2 days or whatever in my shelter, and it was good to go until frost, and I didn't have any spoil. But had it been warmer, I would have had to cut it all up into little strips and smoke it all, but it's a lot less pleasant to eat. Yeah, I was saying earlier, I tried the caribou moss, the reindeer moss, and it's I don't think it's super digestible. I was adding it to my meat just to add carbs, but it's a little too acidic to really enjoy, and I don't know how much food value you get out of it. I stopped. What things you do? Let's see. There was a very inspiring to watch. My questions are: 1, Nathan's YouTube discussion about the finale. He mentioned that there was a bad storm after he left. How bad was the storm? I don't remember the day exactly. I wasn't paying attention. Honestly, the weather to me wasn't a huge issue. I did on the last day finally put on my parka, because I was actually warm enough without that fur coat until the very last day. I was kind of saving all that stuff for December, January, and so it was obviously cold enough that I needed my parka, and that must have been a result of that storm. I remember it being windy, but I don't actually remember I don't remember nothing stuck in my head. Actually, the windiest, nastiest day was the day I caught the first ice fish, but it was already frozen when I picked it up. When I showed it on camera, it was like tornadoes and stuff of snow tornadoes blowing around. That was pretty cool. Donating the local trail running it. Let's see. What else? How was this experience on your mental health when you get home? Do you go back to your normal conversations with friends? Yeah, for me it was real natural. Didn't have any, felt like just another trip back from Russia. I felt pretty normal, honestly. It's like I usually would come back from Siberia, and your cheapest tickets are to New York City, so it's like you're flying from the most remote place on earth to New York City, and never had much for culture shock, and I can't say I did on alone either. Maybe I was talkative, probably. I was probably too talkative, for a while afterwards. You had a lot of stuff to say. What else? Let me think. How thick was the ice the days before you had found out you were the victor? It was about 2 feet thick, probably. I think it was gaining like an inch a day, so it was getting thick fast. But yeah, I was starting to get to where you had to chop a pretty big hole to get in there and fish. Let's see, what else? I don't know what I missed. I was kind of flipping through these. There's a lot of questions asking what is it? Where did that one go? What was your thought life like out there? I saw someone, you'd say you described yourself as a Christian, if I remember correctly. Did you experience, anyway, do you feel like you had a deeper spiritual experience with God while on alone? And it's like, oh yeah, definitely. You never have time to think about spiritual matters that deeply when you're distracted with phones and everything all the time. So that was an amazing time for that. It's great to pause and think about what you believe, why you believe it, why it matters, how that affects your life and your trajectory and your choices. And yeah, it was super powerful, but I'll have to save that for another time because that's a big topic, but a good one. I'll definitely get it. Let's see. Oh no. Let's see. Years ago, and these are some questions from Facebook. You guys can keep asking them. If I actually see them, I'll try to pause on them. I don't have any plans to appear on a talk show or anything. Okay, here's a question from Facebook. Years ago, I learned the native long-term survival method of walking every moment for active survival, looking for resources, hunting, fishing, foraging, and the necessary bushcraft until you obtain sustainability. Please elaborate on this ancient method, and do you think you got there or were close? Was I close to sustainability? I could have been, but we do have hunting regulations, so it's not like I was allowed to get another moose or another Wolverine, and a lot of the predators were off limits. I think I could have got to sustainability had I needed to and didn't have the regulations. And yeah, for me, it was like a really matter of being active, because as you can see in past seasons and stuff, it's not always, just wasn't going to have a chance if it was just who can sit there the longest. Not only, I mean, cheers to the guys that did, because that is mind-numbing. I couldn't even imagine sitting there for 3 months. But I tried sitting there one morning, like, okay, I got a moose, I better stop burning calories. And you're just like, oh, this is boring. So go do something like make a fishing net or something that's tedious and time-consuming, but not just sitting there. Got to keep your mind busy and active. Yeah, like that's especially when you get dropped off in a location you're not familiar with at all. You've never been there. It's like you have to get out there and learn the whole area, because like I would have just thought I had a terrible fishing spot had I not been real active and like climbed over a mountain, come to a point and found a deep spot where I could fish. Everything prior to that for my prior month and a half was all just shallow. So you have to get out and really learn your land. Same with finding a place to put that moose fence, or finding out where even the rabbits were in high concentrations. All that just requires you to get out there and be active. So if you're gonna try to not starve it out, you have to be active. Otherwise, you're not gonna reach sustainability, or the closest thing you can get to it. Let's see. Did my weight stabilize? Yeah, there was a lot of talk about like protein starvation out there. Honestly, I stabilized my weight pretty well without getting into numbers. I don't know if that's like a production detail I'm not supposed to share, but I was losing weight while I was just eating rabbits. Then I got the moose and it stabilized, but I had to figure out how much fat to how much protein to eat. And once I did, my weight picked up again and I gained quite a bit of weight. Then I leveled out as I stopped eating way too much fat so that I could hopefully stretch it for a longer period of time. And so I had pretty stable weight, and I came back not too far under what I weigh today, like my normal weight. I was quite a bit lighter than I went out there because I gained like 25 pounds before I launched, so all that weight left. But that left within the first 20 days. You basically lose a pound a day. Let's see. How good was my gear? My boots. It's like I really missed my reindeer boots. I've always used muckluck style, fur, native made reindeer boots. Or $10 cheap Russian felt boots, but I've never had rubber boots, and those were pretty rough for the situation we were in, because it's just so hard to dry them out. You know, you can stuff hot rocks in them and stuff, but you sweat, your feet sweat, and and then they just get cold unless you're being really active, which is obviously burning calories. So I wasn't a huge fan of rubber boots. I don't think it was those particular boots in particular. It's just boots, rubber boots in that survival situation weren't my favorite. But I should have my own show, and we'll see what opportunities come up. Yeah, I know where I stayed. I found it on Google Earth, and I would like to go back. It was awesome. I love it up there. Hold on, let me see what these questions are. Oh yeah, did Adam? I don't think anyone's ever gained weight while on alone. I think David McIntyre at least said he like stabilized his weight on crabs that one season. But yeah, no, I definitely put on a lot of weight at one point when I was worried that I was losing weight with the moose. You know, you hear me talking about that. I wasn't, or you know, it wasn't what I thought it was, but I thought I was losing a lot of weight on the moose, and so I just ate a ton of fat. In my next med check, my weight went way up. So that was good. So you can live off of a moose. It's not as much as you would think. Like, it's not like you have enough food for the winter. You have maybe a few months, just because, I mean, you'll have a ton of protein, but you'll eat all the fat off of it before you run out of protein. So it's a few months worth of food. Let me see. Did I try to eat the Wolverine I demolished with my axe? I did, and I ate some of it. I was saving it for later, which never came, but I did eat a drumstick off of it, and I ate all its organ meat and stuff, and it tastes pretty much like a faint skunk. Wasn't that great. I do have the Wolverine paws that I brought home, so that's cool, and a tooth. Let's see. That might be a lot of the questions. What item? Oh yeah. Let's see. Did I see anything inexplicable out there? I actually didn't. Although the northern lights were amazing. That's a lot of the questions I guess I just answered. I feel like I missed some. Oh yeah, here you go. You lost all of your hooks when you were jigging with the flashlight. How are you going to get the fish? I didn't lose all my hooks. Again, I just lost my J hooks, which I had only brought a couple to try to use for a lure early on, but I lost those before I ever caught a fish. I ended up catching my first fish with moose meat, which worked really well. And then when I caught the first fish, I would cut out a strip of fish belly, the white belly, and shape it into a fish shape, and use that with a little moose meat, and it worked really well. Had a lot of action on my lines and stuff. Had I known, I would have taken different hooks than I took. I would have taken all huge hooks, because they're all huge fish out there, but I had a lot of little hooks, so there's a lot that weren't great. I even had one snap in half. So who in season 6 really impressed me? I thought they'd all, I don't know, everyone did well. Wonia, of course. Wonia did really well. I wish we could have seen more of Michelle. Everybody did good. I wish we could have seen more of Tim. I think he would have done great hunting. And that's a big deal. Let's see. What else? I'd like to see more detailed video on how you set early warning systems. They seem to have worked great for you. They were really effective, and they aren't complicated at all. I just used a paracord inner line, and I did a few of them. So the first one I set out for the moose, I just did like 3 tin cans, threw it on a rock, and then ran the cord across a commonly used moose trail, and tied it off. So when the moose walked by, it banged on the rocks. That's the moose that I missed, and so I readjusted my my cans next time because I saw what happened when he went through those cans. It kind of startled him, and he ran out to my. It actually worked great for me, but I wouldn't usually want him to be startled. So the next time I made 4 moose cans, I nicked the line so that it would break really easy, just enough to like roll the cans off the rock, not enough to like drag along as he walks, because that's what would startle him. And then I put cans on top of all my meat, you know, on the branches that I had on my meat, so when the Wolverine was knocking the branches off, the cans would fall. And then you saw the ones I had around my cache that was like ran 200 yards back all the way to my shelter with cans right above my bed, so if he went up the cache, the food cache, it would pull the string and clank the cans. And then I put them on all the axes out to my island, just low for Wolverines. I didn't make those, I didn't nick those, so I didn't mind if he dragged those cans. So yeah, they're simple. There's a few cans to clank and some string and run it wherever you might think something might run. How thick was the ice by the time you left? Yeah, a couple of feet. Yeah, it would have gotten rough chopping holes in the ice. Give it another month, you know, that would have been some thick ice. You would have been chopping. You just maybe kept one hole open, and it would have been huge. Let's see. Where did I find so many cans? It's like, well, that's another thing about an active like survival strategy. Those people have been. This is even in Siberia. Like I've been in the most remote places on Earth, but if someone's gonna throws a can away, it's gonna be there forever. Especially in northern climates where things don't rot. So if you get out there and you do a lot of walking, like, you know, if you go miles this way and miles that way, setting snares all along the shoreline, at some point maybe 30, 40 years ago, somebody pulled over and had a little fire, and you'll see like might be covered in moss and even dirt, you know, to even have to unbury it. But I'd go, if I ever found like a ring of rocks that was like a fire circle, sometimes you wouldn't see cans, but then you go off in the bushes around there, you know, like the guy would eat his food and toss his can in the weeds, and you'd go out in the weeds and you'd find, or you know, in the brush, and you'd find cans. And I did cover a lot of ground when I was out there setting out snares and just trying to learn my land, and in those travels I found a lot of cans. Some of them were still not even rusted through, you know, they're probably from the 70s or whatever, but they still held water, so that was really handy. But I mean, pretty sure you can find those in most places you go. It's definitely a big lake like Great Slave Lake that's been populated for a long time. I find them, like I said, out in Siberia in some random places. But I brought a Leatherman Wave. It was great. Oh, somebody had asked me if I would have rather brought a knife, and I just can't say I would have. I like, if I can only have one, I would have liked to have a knife, but I love having the clippers of a Leatherman for working with your snare wire, and the file for filing your axe nice and sharp, and then the extra blades, because it has multiple blades, so when I found cans and stuff, I could like cut cans into shapes without worrying. I did a lot of, like, even on my net, where my fishing net, where the pike struck my net, I cut out of cans little fish shapes and hung them in the net and made them shiny, you know, scraping off the rust, and that's right where the pike struck, so that worked really well. Have any fashion houses contacted you for the exclusive rights to my vest? No, but oddly enough, maybe I need to accept more calls from France. I don't know what's going on. What do I do to prevent my shelter from catching on fire? Yeah, I lined my whole inside of my shelter there with flat slate type stones that I had found. You know, even if I was out hiking and I found good stones, I'd carry it back, and had a nice like fire. Well, I wasn't a concern. I had the stones lining my whole shelter by my fire, and then I also had that hood vent. So it's obviously, having a warm shelter that's smoky is, I mean, that's not smoky is quite a conundrum to solve. But I made a hood vent that had, basically it was like you know, here's your shelter, and it was like a flap of tarp that came down with a piece of moose hide on the front, so that I could close it against the hole in my shelter, and then open it up so all the smoke would like rise up and get caught in that hood vent, and it made it really nice to just open and close. So in the daytime I would leave it open when I had a fire going, and then at night when I shut the fire down after drying all my stuff out, I would close it, and it would seal my shelter, and I'd literally, still in the morning notice the difference between the outside and the inside temperature. What knot did I use on my gill net? I actually had to make it up because that paracord is real difficult to tie knots that hold. I actually worked on the net for a full day or so, and then the next day I came out, all the knots had come loose, because they might be tight when you test it, but then it loosens up overnight and with the temperature changes and stuff. I don't know, but I had to figure out I kind of had to trial and error out there and figure out a knot that worked. It was a double knot, but I'd have to show you. It's hard to describe, I guess, but it was something that I had to trial and error. What else? That's a lot of stuff. Trying to think. Yeah, now if any of you else have any questions, I'll try to answer them now. I was trying to hit some on Reddit and on Facebook. A lot of people have asked me like about my spiritual journey out there, and I do have a lot to say about that. It's just I feel like I have to be like in the right headspace. What did I do to pass the time after it got dark? A lot of boot drying. It'd take you a couple hours every night to heat up rocks, get them just the right temperature that they wouldn't burn your boots or burn your socks, and then all your socks you would dry out until they didn't steam anymore. Swap it around, do the same with your boots. It was a real tedious process. Do it the same with your gloves, and that would literally take a couple hours. I would also eat, which was nice. Play little cards. And you talk a lot to your camera. It was nice having the camera out there because you could like turn it on and sort of like journal to it, talk about your pontifications of one type or another. But prior to setting out, were you talking much about I'm planning to get a moose? I remember one of the contestants, I think Barry, saying that he would be foolish to try. I got a lot of questions. Hold on. I would definitely wanted to try to get a moose or a bear. I thought it might be just as likely to get a bear. I was hoping to catch a lot of fish early on and make a big pile of, rotting fish and hunt over that. But the fishing was difficult to figure out. Like I said, it took me a lot of running around my territory before I found a spot. Getting a moose was also a big part of my plan. A moose, a bear, fishing, those are like what your staples are going to be. Muskox are up there, but didn't see any of those. And beaver, I did look for beaver, no signs of them either, but there's a lot of beautiful looking habitat. Odd that there weren't any. I was expecting some. Let's see. How long were you monitored health-wise before being allowed to return home? And was that your first meal? And what was your first meal after your victory? I did answer that earlier, but it was my fish. Like I got out and went to production camp, and like I said, they gave me my own fish that I had, because they were excited themselves because they had run out of good food, I guess. So, I ate my own fish. Hold on, why does it say low battery? I thought it's charging. We'll see. I might lose you guys. I wasn't monitored for very long after the show. Just 2 days, I was already on my flight home to the States. I didn't have any health issues. So that's a good thing about getting food. Let's see. I wasn't allowed to talk to other people at production camp. As far as the land itself goes in the Great Slave Lake area in general, how would you compare it to your region of Siberia where you spent a lot of time? It's really similar in a lot of ways, and there's a few like key areas that it's different. The climate's really similar. It's different in that everywhere I was in Siberia was kind of river based, so I actually hadn't done a lot of lake fishing. Well, most of the fishing I do is in Siberia, and most of that's on rivers, so made for a little more of a learning curve, but not really. You just oh, and the trees are different. Russia has more trees. Up there it was like basically birch and spruce, and then in Russia there's still, in tamarack in Russia there's still others, especially a pine nut tree over there, a type of cedar that has edible pine nuts in the fall, which is super awesome. Let's see, what was your ice fishing technique once the ice froze? No, well, it was the net, obviously, but also I did a lot of set lines. You could see in one of the shots where I walked out with all the sticks in my backpack. So you'd go out, chop a hole in the ice and then lay one stick across it like that, and then another stick with a branch sticking off it, lay it like that. Your line would be coming off of this. Set a bunch of those, bury them in snow, and then that was my ice fishing technique. And I did catch a fish that way. And that's actually the fish that one of the fish snapped one of the hooks in half. So I don't know what I had on there, but it was a big old fish, snapped one of my hooks. I don't really know what I'm gonna do with my money yet. It's gonna be taxed heavily, so we'll wait for that. But I don't know. I gotta decide. I have some things to pay off, but then I want to use it advantageously, invest it in a way that'll provide me more time with the old family. Let's see. No, my relationship hasn't changed with friends or family since it ended, although it's given us a cool excuse to hang out and talk about stuff. That's been fun. I thought was one of the big things I found when I was out there that was a big motivator, was that I've done so much of this stuff in Siberia, but a lot of that stuff you never have need to do in America. So while I was out there, I was like, oh, it's like motivating to try to win, because that's an unbelievable amount of money, but it's also really a great opportunity to be able to share like skills that I have gathered over the years that people don't even know that I have, because I go into Siberia and I do all that stuff, and then I come back to the States and I tell stories and all that, but it's all just kind of abstract. So it was cool to have an opportunity to be able to really share some like practical knowledge that I've gathered over the years. That was awesome. I really appreciated that, and that's been fun aspect of like friends and family and stuff. Would I do the show if it was all stars? I'd have to think about it. I do like colder regions. I will see when we'll get across that bridge when it gets there, maybe. On Reddit, you said you had 30 days at least left. That's incredible. Yeah, I definitely had 30 days left. I mean, just going by, to not talk about numbers, I don't know that they want us to, but I had a lot of weight to lose before I got to, I actually don't even know what the pull-out BMI is. They don't tell you that, but I've read on the internet, so I don't know how accurate that is, that it's around 17, and I'm sure that varies based on other variables with how your heart and your health and other ways is doing, but I had a lot of pounds to give until 17. It wasn't even close to there, so if they would have allowed me to go all the way to a 17 BMI, I could have survived on fat alone for another month, let alone all the food I had, which was a month's worth. So I don't know, I had a lot of food, at least a month left. And I think if I would have been pushing, I mean, my main concern out there was at the moment was like, oh, I don't want to miss Christmas, what a bummer, which was a good month off. So my concerns were for the future, and a lot of my stresses in hindsight now were all things I was worried about in the future. You're still, even though I had a lot of food, I was still worried about starving. Like, man, I'm not gonna, this isn't gonna be enough food to get me through January. And you're worried. I was worried about missing Christmas, and I was worried about, man, do I really want to miss 6 months of my kids' lives when they're 2 and 3, and all that kind of stuff. It was all these things. Those were the 3 biggest things I thought about as far as like mentally difficult aspects of being out there, and turns out none of them were really an issue. So maybe I could have been a little more present. No, but that actually motivated me to really, especially the food thing, it really motivated me to provide. I got a moose, and it's like the next day you're like, it's not enough food, I got to go get more. Let's see. Uh-oh, I think my phone's dying, guys. Whoa. Which is weird, because it is plugged in, but... Let's see. Any equipment that didn't live up to your expectations? All my gear was awesome, except I didn't like rubber boots. I wish I could have gotten my reindeer fur boots from Russia, but by the time we found out where we were going, I only probably had a month, and there's pretty low odds of getting stuff delivered from Siberia to here in a month. Let's see. So I went with rubber boots, which I had never really used a lot of because I've always just used what I have in Russia, and they weren't great. Are there any pieces of gear that I wish I took instead? I kind of answered that already. Tastiest food while you were out there? Oh, I love the moose heart. What you got that, like, it's that meat that doesn't have like, it's not stringy at all, just chews so well. It's got the ring of fat around the top. I even saved a piece that I had hanging up just in case my wife came. I was like, I gotta share this with her, and so I hung it up. Of course, by the time she got there, it was just dried and not appetizing at all, but it was a nice thought. Yeah, hunting is a hobby. I do enjoy it, but mostly deer hunting, and I haven't taken moose before. It's actually pretty hard to hunt moose in the States. In Russia, I've been around a lot of moose hunting because the natives, it's kind of a staple food over there, so getting a lot of moose over there. How did you feel to watch the show with your wife or friends knowing that you had won? Yeah, that's weird. Of course you want to talk about stuff, and you want to talk about stuff. I mean, they did a great job. It was a blast watching, but they also really focused on the suffering that I was going through to whatever degree I was suffering. It seemed a little exaggerated, so I was, you just want to explain that, like, oh, it wasn't that bad, like, and then, but I was fine. I knew in the end it would be fine, so it was good. Again, the Wolverine tasted like a skunk. Did I buy the Kuya gear new? Yeah, why'd I go with them? Just totally randomly. I wanted to get good rain gear, and I just randomly went with them. I actually hadn't had their gear before, but I was really impressed with it. I have had a lot of Gore-Tex gear in the past and been totally unimpressed with it, so I'd always just wear like wool and let myself get wet, and like pretty much like most of the natives do, but I wanted to get something that was a little more weatherproof, and that exterior Kuya layer was awesome. The like Yukon rain pants and coat. Really liked it. I've said the same. Let's see. That seems to always... yeah, I can't say that he was saying this seems to be the history's MO. A lot of contestants have said the same thing. Drama, number one. Truth, not so much. They definitely like the drama, but I can't say... yeah, I mean, I was happy with how it was edited in the end. There were times, like, of course they're leaving cliffhangers and stuff, and so there's times, like, one moment where on the preview, it said me saying, like, oh, this is hopeless. And I was just like, watching it, like, what? Like, I don't ever remember feeling hopeless at all. Like, what in the world was I talking about? I was racking my brain. And then the next show, it was me, like, picking ice out of my beer, being like, oh, it's hopeless. And I was like, oh, that's what it is. So you can't really, obviously they use that clip in their preview, but they did fortunately at least show the show the context in the next episode. And they do that a lot, yeah. What else? Did it get choppy for you? Oh yeah, the water was super choppy. It was like I thought it had crossed my mind to make a little kayak and do some fishing that way, but it wasn't really worth the risk because the wind would come in and get real choppy. It's like you couldn't. Of course, everyone thinks they're gonna set lines out. And the first day I was there, or second day, I was put out a bunch of set lines, and the water just blew in all the waves, and all the set lines got tangled and lost hooks on the rocks. It was pretty bad. So passive fishing wasn't effective, and yeah, boating wasn't really a good idea. I watched your series filming the Evenki, and it was amazing. Did you experience filming the Evenki impact your filming it alone? I mean, maybe a little bit. It's not like doing it with the Evenki was professional at all. I just had like a 3.1 megapixel little Canon camera, which is a shame because there could have been some amazing footage if I would have had something better. But just getting used, I was always used to pulling out my camera when something was cool that was going on. At one point, so here's a quick cool story. I don't know how it was getting kind of long, but I was in a hunting cabin and we heard a dog barking, and my buddy went out to brush his teeth and he came back in. He's like, dude, there's a bear out there. And so we went out and looked, and a bear took off maybe 100 yards from our hunting cabin. He ran up in the woods, and we look over like, what is that over there? And it was a dead moose lying there. Like, what? This bear just killed a moose like 100 yards from our shelter. So we walked over there, like, sweet, delivered to us. We like chopped up the moose, brought it back to the shelter, and then of course 3 days later the bear was back and he was circling around our shelter and going nuts. The dog was hiding under the bed, and you could tell the bear was mad. And I handed the SKS to my buddy, and he's like an Evenki guy. I figured he knew what he was doing, and I grabbed my little 3.1 megapixel camera and went out there, and it felt like the ghost in the darkness. But there's like all tall brush, and we're out there, and you could hear the bear, or the dog would be barking over in the brush over here, and so you're kind of looking over there, but then the bear would snort behind you, like, you like turn around, like, whoa, and then the same thing, it would like run around and be on the other side of you, and then it was pretty creepy. Anyway, at one point the bear stood up and snorted right in front of us, and my friend that had the gun just took off running. I was stuck there with my dumb little camera, and then but I'd actually had knee surgery not long ago, so I was not even gonna run away, which is a bad idea anyway. So I just filmed. Then he, like, literally a full minute later, he comes back, his knees, like, man, my knees are shaking. And I was like, don't run away, you have the gun. And then sure enough, the bear stood up again, and then he was just like, bah, bah, bah. It was like Vietnam, and just unloaded on it and got it. But that was pretty intense. But that was like a situation where it's like, oh, I was definitely in the habit of like filming instead of other things. It's fun to film. The show didn't show much of your trapping. How many traps did you set up, and what kind, how much did you catch, etc.? I set up like probably 150 snares and caught 28 rabbits before taking down most of those snares after I got the moose, because I didn't want to kill a bunch of rabbits for no reason. I actually let one go that day when I got the moose. I was taking some snares down, and there was a rabbit that had gotten caught by its hip in one of my snares, so I just let him go. It was kind of funny. And then I caught 37 or 8, I forget, mice, but those were all Paiute deadfalls, and that was just 3 or 4 Paiute deadfalls that I had circling my shelter and in that area, so there was a lot of mice. And that's mostly what we did for traps, because we weren't allowed to bait traps, and we weren't allowed, so like a lot of your deadfalls and stuff aren't going to work if you can't bait them. What else? How do you think we would have done if, let's see, if you brought a knife, what would it have been? I'm not like a huge knife guy, but I do really like the Evenki style knives. They're like sharpened from one side, or like a Yakut knife. I like that sharpened from one side style, even on an axe. That's how my axe is also sharpened, but it allows you to do a lot finer work with that flat side of the blade, and you can cut anything you need to cut. So it's just a little more versatile. It's easier to sharpen, and so I like those. As for like more conventional knives, I like the like Finnish puukko style, like long grind knives. How important do you think mentality is to alone? Like, it's actually, yeah, surprisingly important. Like when I was out there, it wasn't really an issue. Like, I don't know, I guess keeping busy, if you keep busy, it's not going to really bother you. But I could imagine, like, if you didn't have enough calories to stay busy, that it would be really tough to just sit there day after day after day. Like, oh man, I can't even imagine. That would be a nightmare. I've never had to do that. But yeah, when I was just keeping busy, and I can't say my mental space was ever in any concern. Although the when you watch, you see that it becomes a really big deal for other people. So I guess that's some of that's prior experience and some of that's personality probably. But yeah, it's definitely a big part. You probably don't want to have like big. It's really interesting when you're out there. You think of like everything you've ever done wrong to people. You think of all the things you've like people you should call and make right with, and all that kind of stuff, and people you've long forgotten about. And I think if you had like major issues boiling under you, it could probably be mentally difficult to deal with those out there by yourself. Aside from that, it's like boredom. Yeah, boredom would suck, and I'd have a really hard time sitting there for 3 months even with that kind of a prize, but that's why I didn't. That would be horribly miserable. Let's see. Oh, that little ferret visited me pretty often there. He was pretty funny. I didn't actually mind for most of the time that he was like, he would just run around. I'd hear him chasing mice and eating mice outside, and that was awesome. And then one night he came and stole, I had that pile of 30 whatever mice. I'd eaten a few, but then I got the moose and was like, well, these are going to be saved for a very dark day. If I eat a whole moose and come back to mice, I'm in trouble. So I kind of wasn't really taking that good of care of him, and that little turd came and hauled off like 30 of those little mice one morning. That was pretty hilarious. He got set up, but I kind of liked him. He was funny. I'd see him running around. And at one point he actually came into my shelter though and started like hauling all my rabbit furs out. You could see him doing that in there, which I didn't really mind, but then he kept doing it, of course. And so at one point I gave him a little squirt of bear spray. It was pretty funny. But he was fine. He took off, and then he just never came back in my shelter, but he would still run all over outside of my shelter, and I thought I'd throw my scraps out and he'd eat them. But we came to an agreement after that. Matt Raybold, what's up, dude? Before going on the show, did you think of yourself as one of the favorites to win? No, definitely not. I thought I was too thin. It was like, but I was like, well, I know that it's just, you can find sustainability in the north because I've done it in Siberia to one degree or another. So it's like, if I'm sustainable out there, it doesn't matter that I'm the thinnest or not. So I'll just try to do that, try not to think too much about everybody else. When I did think about other people, I'd be like, oh man, I'm like 60 pounds lighter than that guy, and 60 pounds of fat is like, is there even 60 pounds of fat on a moose? And then you start thinking like, oh man. But fact is if you get out there and you can get sustainable, then you won't have an issue. That's why my main concerns were missing my family for 6 months, or like running out of food in February, all that kind of stuff, which was kind of off in the distance. But fortunately, things were going pretty well. What ethnicity is Jana Lee? She's quarter Peruvian, quarter Chinese, and half Filipina. The moose antlers, yeah, I mean, like an idiot, I left most of my memorabilia at the place because I thought, I didn't grab my fork and my fish net and all that kind of stuff because like, oh, who cares? I got the moose antlers. And but then when I got to Yellowknife, I had like wrapped them up in a blanket and duct taped them and done something dumb like that, but I didn't think it mattered. Anyway, I got on the plane and they said they wouldn't let that on the plane. I had to buy a hard case, but I didn't have any connections in Yellowknife, and I didn't have the lady who was guiding us in Yellowknife's phone number, so I couldn't get a hold of anybody, and the plane was leaving. It was like, oh man. And so I just left him out the front door of the Yellowknife airport. And then I called the lady, or my wife called the lady later, and she went by and they were already gone, so somebody grabbed them, of course. But that was a bummer. Well, yeah, I don't know. I guess that's probably about it. That's an hour. Full hour. The supply of salt in your diet, I think you get enough salt from the moose, honestly, because I never had an issue with salt, and to be honest, it tasted just delicious. Never got sick of the moose. I didn't even feel like I needed salt. What piece of Let's see. How much for the rabbit vest? Make an offer. Everything's for sale. Let's see. And then I didn't actually get that last. Can you throat sing for us, please? Uh-oh. But I gotta practice. I'm way out of practice. I didn't even practice enough out there to get good at it again. Yeah, it's an issue. Did the long nights get hard? Oh, long nights were awesome. Same in Siberia. It's like you like go to sleep at 8 or whatever, 7 o'clock, and you don't get up until 9 o'clock in the morning. But you'll wake up in the middle of the night, and I'd always have like a little moose meat there to eat, and then go back to sleep, and then you dream super vividly. I've never dreamt so vividly as when you're like out in the forest, and especially alone. Your mind must just really get bored and keep itself active through dreams, because it was fascinating, some of the stuff you'd see. Anyway, awesome stuff. There's still a lot more to talk about. Maybe we can do another one of these sometimes. Yeah, I could do one more focused on Siberia, and of course there's just a lot of like the superficial stuff, but it is the spiritual aspect of the experience is pretty profound too. So the whole mental game out there and all that. Cool, guys, and everybody, it's been fun hanging out or whatever, chatting it up. So thanks for tuning in. See you guys.